Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Switch On. I'm your host, Ben Lamoureux, and I'm joined by two returning guests. Welcome back, Steven.
You better reach for my hand, or else I'll soar away into the dawn.
I'm just glad you didn't sing it.
I was so tempted to do it.
Reach for my hand, I'll soar away. Sorry,
I
you just had to say singing
in your heads.
Oh, it was in it long before this happened.
I was actually kind of like internally placing a bet with myself how long it would take before Jeff starts singing.
Like that's actually what I used for my my warm up to like make sure everything was recording.
Uh-huh.
So I was like right there.
All right, well, this episode is going to be all about the upcoming Smash DLC. Byleth was just revealed as the final fighter. Am I pronouncing that right, you weebs?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so Byleth was revealed as the final fighter in the, at least the first fighter pass. So we'll be giving our thoughts on that. And then a little bit later, we're going to lay out some of our hopes and dreams for future DLC characters. You guys ready to dig in?
Of course.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start us off with Byleth because I know I will have the least amount to say, and then I can just kind of get out of the way and let you two go at it. I'm kind of in the camp of, I don't really play any Fire Emblem games or anything like that. Nothing against the franchise, but I can see why there's a lot of like, oh, look, another Fire Emblem character, takes all over the internet. My thought, though, is like, Byleth looks a little bit different than the others. It's not just generic swordsman with the same kind of reach as like a Marth or something. So, it's whatever. I don't think too much representation has to be a bad thing. And it's Nintendo. They're gonna put in the hot new character from their hot new game in Smash. That's just what they do. So I'd say overall, that's kind of how I felt about several of the characters in this first wave of the DLC Fighter Pass or whatever. There was a lot of characters that aren't for me, but it's great to see Nintendo expanding out, and it's kind of a good thing, because they're certainly going to be introducing people to franchises they've never seen before, and for the people that do play Fire Emblem, I understand this was a huge moment. So that's about all I have to say on Byleth, but Steven, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your thoughts, and then Jeff, you can join in after.
Well, so I think as a very general overview, I really like this pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. Three Houses was one of, if not the biggest Nintendo release last year. And I think it was only a matter of time before we got someone from the game in Smash. I think the timing could have been a bit better. I mean, I think that we've had a lot of third-party characters up to this point, and I think a lot of people were upset that Nintendo is going back to their characters for the final pick on that. And I think it would have made a bit more sense. I think it would have made a bit more sense a bit closer to release. Because it came out last summer, so it's been 6 months or so. Maybe not right when it came out, because I know when Corrin got introduced into the last iteration, a lot of people were saying that Corrin was thrown in specifically to help market Fates.
Sure.
And so,
which is probably a little bit true.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so I'm glad that they waited a little bit to let Three Houses do its thing on its own, and then then they can come in and put this. But I think it probably would have served a bit better, maybe around November for like the last pack or the last character.
Sure. Yeah, I think initially a lot of people were kind of upset that, oh, this is the final one that's going to come out or whatever, but then Nintendo's like, no, we've got another 6 on the way. So that was a good move to go ahead and confirm that right away for anyone who is salty about the Byleth pick.
Right.
How about you, Jeff? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? You're Jeff. Just go ahead and take it away.
Yes, I am Jeff. So, my thoughts on the Byleth reveal. I had a few feelings, typically all positive, but I can definitely see where the negatives were starting to come from. But first things first, major sigh of relief. Thank goodness it's not all third parties. As much as I love all the inclusions that we've had thus far, we were kind of lacking on Nintendo-themed DLC, and I think we're going to go over some of that a bit later, because I mean, we've pretty much got like all the returning characters, and it's all the third-party all-stars that people have wanted to see for a while. A few surprise picks, like like Joker at the start, then Hero, then Banjo, and then Terry. So I can understand that a lot of people were miffed that Byleth comparatively, and I do feel the same way, was a bit of an underwhelming note. But like Steven touched on before, unlike Corrin, who had only been released in Japan, whose main game was originally released in Japan, at least here everyone got a taste of Three Houses for the most part, and had an easier time to digest like this particular character. And like you said, Ben, it's not like just another Fire Emblem character. If anything, I kind of saw Byleth's inclusion as the pinnacle, or like the missing piece of the Fire Emblem lineup, because we've had our typical lords who are pretty much just like main sword wielders, and then that's it. I'm sure they have a few unique properties, but we've got Marth and Lucina, then Roy and Crom, who kind of fill their own archetypes. Ike comes in as the heavy. Robin, he comes in as the magician, and also filling in the role of tactician, which has been, a core theme of the series for the longest time. But then here comes Byleth, who, at long last, sure, we might have wanted to see other characters take similar positions, but here he comes at last, filling in like the weapon triangle. Like, we've got the sword, we've got the lance, we've got the axe, like the main core gameplay of Fire Emblem represented, as well as the bow. So I'm glad to see that Byleth, like, it's not just like a random like thoughtless inclusion just to promote Three Houses. It's one that I feel like stands on its own merits as a perfect representative of the Fire Emblem series.
Well, that's good. I like I said, I'm not really into the Fire Emblem series, so I don't kind of have that inside knowledge, but I like that idea of they've sort of had one character from kind of each sort of archetypal class, and then you kind of filling in the blanks with Byleth here at the end. That's an interesting way to look at it.
And I don't think we're gonna see like another Fire Emblem character in the next pass cuts. I think
until the next game comes out.
Probably.
But there are so many.
I remembered because I remembered back like before all Fire Emblem Three Houses was even revealed. I thought Celica was going to be like the new Fire Emblem pick, but comparatively she would have been like a little bit more of a middle ground between Robin and one of the other sword fighters. So I'm glad that they held off on this. Glad that they waited for someone like Byleth to come along and fill like those remaining roles that hadn't been touched on as of yet. I don't think we're going to see anything like a Pegasus rider or Wyvern rider or anything of the like, because that's a much more significant undertaking right there. But I think for the time being, sure, it's a bitter pill to swallow for a good chunk of the Smash fan base who got their hopes and expectations set way too high over that particular
as they always do.
Yeah, especially over like certain Devil May Cry news that was happening on the side, and then everyone thought they put two and two together, but they didn't. If anything, I'm glad that we didn't have this character shown off like immediately or early or like revealed at the start. I'm glad that this one wasn't leaked, because sure, whether people were happy or angry, we pretty much like none of us saw it coming. I mean, sure, first party Nintendo franchise, Fire Emblem is a huge mainstay, but even then, we all thought like third party or something else.
Yeah.
Going back to Byleth being a very thoughtful inclusion. I mean, you can tell there's so much love for Three Houses specifically put into her design. And for one, you do have the other weapons representing each of the houses. And so I think right there, Byleth is the safe choice, just because, you'd have people arguing, Claude should be in, Edelgard should be in. Well, this way you kind of get everyone.
On top of their color palettes.
Yes, and yeah, the color palettes, I'm blown away by just how much detail and like thought went into it. So you have your standard male and female Byleth, but then you have a Claude alt, you have an Edelgard alt, and a Dimitri alt. Female Byleth also has the Sothis color, and then the final two are story related to Three Houses. And so again, you still, even though we didn't get, for instance, Edelgard, in her actual character in, we have her weapon, we have, you can dress up Byleth to look like her, and so I think just overall did a really good job of capturing that feel. And then, of course, you also have the stage, Garreg Mach, where you have it just rotates between the different areas of the monastery, and in each area you still get some kind of background characters from each house.
There's a lot going on in that stage.
Yes, there is. So you get some of your blue lions, your golden deer. My favorite Black Eagles characters are all there, so I'm happy about that. But I think it's just, again, just the detail and the thought really, I think, did comes through. And as a big Three Houses fan, a big Fire Emblem fan, I really appreciate that.
And let's not forget our MVP, the Gatekeeper. Greetings, Professor. Nothing to report.
I gotta say, even though Dante from Devil May Cry was heavily rumored and did not appear, there was a part of me that wanted him just for the sake of the memes. We need Smash to officially be featuring Dante from Devil May Cry.
Yeah, and
yes,
I think it was
exactly.
like right before the reveal where, there was that image of Sakurai holding up 3 fingers going around, and everyone's, speculating that. And, it just occurred to me that, not saying it did mean anything, but 3 fingers, 3 houses. I mean, kind of looking on it in retrospect, maybe he was hinting at something. I don't know.
I just figure Sakurai was throwing up gang signs. Yeah, well, another option too is if your preferred character didn't make it in as a fighter in DLC, there's always Mii costumes, and we've gotten a pretty good variety of first and third party characters in that too that maybe couldn't quite cut it as a full-fledged character. So what we have in the latest batch of Mii fighters is Altair from the Assassin's Creed franchise, and then Cuphead from Cuphead, obviously. The Rabid character from Ubisoft's Raving Rabbids, and then Mega Man X and Mega Man.exe. So I'm happy about X and Cuphead personally. I think those are both great inclusions.
Just a correction. Are you sure you didn't mean Altair from the Altair series?
Yeah. We'll go with that.
I'm sure that was maybe like a ratings thing because of the word assassin in North America. Because apparently in the European and Japanese broadcasts of the Smash presentation, it was just the basic Assassin's Creed logo. But I'm pretty happy with some of these picks. My little brother, he was a huge Assassin's Creed fan growing up until it got oversaturated. So he was happy to see that Altair is being represented in some form. Then there are the Rabbids. I don't really have a lot to say, but the model definitely looks on point for the hat. X and .exe, I was kind of anticipating those two to come back from Smash 4. We still have a few third-party Mii Fighter costumes that haven't returned yet. I'm definitely expecting them to come back in later Smash DLC rounds. And then, of course, friggin' Cuphead out of nowhere. Essentially the sans of this presentation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wanted Cuphead as a playable fighter, but this makes a lot more sense to me. Just keeping him as a Mii gunner. You don't have to get too bizarre with the move set and, lose sight of what the character is. You can kind of keep it simple with the Mii gunner. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a good way to represent the character.
They've even got his little pointer as his cannon.
Oh, yeah.
Works too well. Oh, I love it. And of course, Floral Fury in Smash. I can't wait to play that ad nauseum.
Yeah, right. It's only one of the best songs in the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
But no, as I'm biased, of course, given my connection to Cuphead speedrunning. But I'm not usually one to spring for the costumes, even though they're only 75 cents. But I have to get Cuphead just because it's Cuphead. I mean, there's so much work was put into that game as a whole. I just have to support it however I can, and just to see the character in Smash at all, it just blew my mind. Especially since it didn't start as a Nintendo title. I mean, it only was brought over after the fact, and I mean it's
very recent,
very recent game, especially on Switch. So I was just a little surprised and taken aback in a good way, of course. I never would have thought that he would have been in at least for a while, if at all.
Sakurai made the comment that Smash is now the highest selling fighting game of all time, even outpacing like all different retail versions of Street Fighter 2 combined. I'm not sure if that includes arcade cabinets or not. And he said, I don't know if it's fair to just call Smash a fighting series. I just think of it as a celebration of video game history. And yeah, I mean, you're really seeing that the power of Smash, just bringing all these characters together, even new ones. If they're already beloved and iconic in the gaming industry, then they've got a shot.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of characters that have a shot to get in Smash in the future, let's go ahead and move on to our discussion segment, where we're going to talk about the upcoming 6 DLC fighters. We thought it would be fun to do kind of a dream announcement scenario, where we'll each outline 2 characters that we'd like to see announced and talk about how they might play. And I don't remember if we all went ahead with this. We were kind of talking about each doing maybe one first party and one third party. Did you guys end up doing that?
I did not.
Okay, all right, Steven, you kicked out.
I kind of did in the long run, but I don't know. I was kind of debating on doing a second Nintendo franchise, but I figured, you know what? I'll just like stick to what I know, stick to my favorites, and then we'll see where things go.
Yeah, and we can circle around to some honorable mentions briefly at the end too. Mm-hmm. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off then, Jeff, since you're ready to go with your 2?
Well, by all means, thank you very much. So, before we begin, I would just like to say, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I think I speak for everyone when I say we all love that game. It's gotten so huge with a ridiculously massive roster that's incorporated so many fan favorites that I think at this point, it doesn't feel like anything is missing. Every new inclusion just feels like, oh, you know what, they are a welcome addition. I didn't see it coming. All of my favorites are in, so what do I have to complain about? Except for one glaring omission.
Here it comes.
Yep. So, I remembered way back when it was the November 2018 Direct before the game's launch, they announced the Fighters Pass, and as a bonus for purchasing said pass, there would be a Rex costume from Xenoblade 2. And on one hand, it's like, yay, I love it. I do love Xenoblade 2 a lot. I have a very heavy emotional attachment to that game for various reasons. And just seeing Rex only come through as a Mii fighter and Nia, honorable mention right there, kind of pains me a little bit. I mean, sure, Sakurai only has like so much time in the world, dedicating all of his time to like playing Smash or working on Smash, and then playing a ton of other games for research and for leisure on the side. And I think I remembered he mentioned during the presentation that with Breath of the Wild and Three Houses, he did get some hands-on time with the game. And I remember even further back, when it came to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, by the time Smash Ultimate was getting off the ground development-wise, they were still very early in pre-production for XC2, so like they only had like concept art for the characters really lined out. So naturally, Rex wouldn't have made it then. But I thought the Fighter's Pass would have been the perfect opportunity to bring him, Pyra, and Mithra into the mold, but unfortunately, that didn't happen, and I'm hoping that this new Fighter's Pass would finally be their saving grace, because, damn it, there's still so much material from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to include into the game. Now, sure, we've already got, like, some spirits and a couple of songs, but from my perspective, it's like, sure, this is just from, like, as the game was going along for production, and then Smash just, went on ahead and became its own beast. There is still so much more material to pull from, so I know I'm kind of segueing away from the actual fighter, but I just want to say, like, for spirits, like for the DLC spirit board, they could include like some of the antagonists, like Torna. They could include some of the other blades that whose drivers are featured as spirits, like Zeke and Morag and Nia. But I haven't seen Dromark or Brigid or Pandoria for that matter. And of course, for the music, we've got 2 really fantastic songs, like Those Who Recall Our Names and Still Move Forward. I think it's those 2, but there are so many more like battle-heavy tracks to incorporate, like Counterattack, Incoming, Monster Surprised You, Deathmatch with Torna. There's like so much amazing music, and I've been listening to that soundtrack on loop for the past week, just getting ready for this this podcast.
Gotta get pumped.
Pretty much. So I think I've digressed long enough, and I'd like to talk about Rex, Pyra, and Mithra, and what I envision for those 3 in particular.
Now, are you seeing this as like a Pokemon trainer situation where you switch between the 3?
A bit of a mix between that and Shulk.
Okay. Like different forms or whatever, or different styles.
Kinda. I'm guessing you haven't played XC too much, or?
No, I only ever played I played the original Xenoblade on Wii, and I didn't get super far in it because I just had other stuff to do, and it was a huge, daunting RPG. So I haven't really gotten back into the franchise since.
No, I can't really dock it for that because in any case, my library is getting like more and more backlogged by the day.
Yeah.
So for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the main gimmick of that game is there's the core Xenoblade gameplay, but this time they sort of turn it on its head a little bit with the concepts of drivers and blades. Drivers are essentially like your normal like everyday humans, and hell, they could even be monsters who wind up resonating with a core crystal. And then that core crystal becomes its own sentient being called a blade. Basically a weapon all on its own, but, they have thoughts and feelings like the rest of us. And in Rex's case, his situation as the protagonist of a lengthy JRPG would often show, his is a bit of a special case. Early on in the game, he winds up coming across the fabled lost blade of war and destruction known as the Aegis. And the Aegis, in this case, houses like two particular beings. There's Pyra, whose leniency is more on fire, and Mithra, whose leniency is more towards light. Now, I mentioned Shulk earlier on because Shulk, he has the Monado arts where each particular art essentially changes up some of his attributes a little bit for a limited time. Like speed increases his speed, jump increases jump, shield makes him much more durable but super slow. I kind of see a tamer version of that with Rex, but on a more permanent scale. Now, I remembered way back when I first wrote those lengthy top 10 anticipated newcomers for Super Smash Bros. Switch way back on Gamenesia. I had this whole thing written about how I could see Rex getting into the game. And so on the note of Monado arts, with Rex, like his main gimmick would essentially work somewhat like Shulk's, but on a more permanent but less amped up scale. Pyra, when she's on the field with Rex to power him up, her battle arts and battle skills in the original game buffed up his offensive capabilities. And Mithra, when she was introduced like part way, I'd say like maybe 20-30% through Xenoblade 2 as the alternate and original form of the Aegis, her main highlight was Foresight, where kind of like Shulk, you can see into the future a little bit and then counter appropriately.
Sure.
So I figured like as a perfect counterbalance, Pyro would buff up Rex's strength, and Mithra would kind of buff up his accuracy and speed. So for his actual moveset, I think I wrote way back when Aegis Shift would essentially be his main standard special, which Kirby would kind of incorporate, where it would just change between the two Aegises. So either power up, speed down, or speed up, power down. Side special, I can see him use his anchor shot just to pay attention to the fact that Rex, before he became the driver of the legendary Aegis, he was just your typical salvager, just trying to make a coin like anyone else. And
I'm just a typical high school boy.
I mean, the job of a salvager is incredibly dangerous, and if anything, I recommend you check the game out sometime if you can. But anchor shot,
okay.
Anchor shot was one of Rex's battle arts where he would just fire his anchor from the salvager suit and then just yank on it to inflict the topple status effect on his enemies. I can see that come into play in Smash where where anchor shot he would just aim forward, shoot his anchor up ahead, and then it would trip up whatever opponent it hits. Alternatively, I could also see it as a long distance grab, kind of like Isabelle's fishing rod. For his up special, I figured Rolling Smash, as his battle art, Rolling Smash would make the perfect up special, although it would kind of operate like Ike's, because as the name would suggest, it's about coming straight up and then just coming right back down with a devastating attack. So, good on power, good for KOs, but really terrible recovery horizontally and
careful near edges.
Pretty much. And then for his down special, that's where I thought things could get a bit more fun. So depending on which of the Aegis sisters are out in the open, his down special would be entirely different. Kind of like the Ken's two Final Smash gimmicks, and Ken and Ryu's, but I'm just digressing further. So the down special would this time take on Pyra or Mithra's battle arts, and I think depending on how much damage Rex takes up, and I'll get to that particular gimmick in a moment. Depending on how much damage Rex or Pyra or Mithra take up, it would intensify the power of the down special, where In Pyra's case, it would start off from her level 1 special, from Flame Nova, then to Prominence Revolt. Or actually, am I getting them mixed up? Flame Nova, Prominence Revolt, and then Photon Edge. Or if Mithra's out in battle, it'd be Ray of Punishment, Blazing End, and Lightning Buster. I think I've got those mixed up somewhere, but Steven, I think you get where I was getting at.
Yeah, this is all making a lot more sense to you than me, probably, Steven.
Potentially. And with damage, here's where Xenoblade Chronicles 2 kind of suffers a little bit from gameplay and story segregation, because early on in the game, Rex actually gets killed because he accidentally woke the Aegis up, and the organization that took him in did not want to let that happen or have the Aegis resonate with a random stranger and come back to life. So to help, to resurrect him, Pyra essentially gives up half of her core crystal, and then Rex was able to just come right back into battle, and then take on Torna, who pretty much stabbed him in the back right there. But the drawback from him and Pyra or Mithra sharing a core crystal is that whatever damage one takes is reflected onto the other. So the way I can see that being brought into Smash, since that wasn't really touched on in Xenoblade 2's gameplay, is that whatever damage that Rex or Pyra or Mithra take, kind of unlike the Ice Climbers, where Nana can just act as a meat puppet, or Luma for Rosalina, they all share the same damage percentage. So if one of them gets KO'd, all three get KO'd. And finally, for the final Smash, like the down special, it would depend on which Aegis takes the field. It would be the level 4 specials for either Pyra or Mithra, being Burning Sword or Sacred Arrow. There are some more finishing moves that Rex unleashes later on in the game that are so friggin' spectacular, but because they're extremely spoilerific, I'm not going to go into details here. And finally, for his home stage, I could see either Argentum, the Traders Guild, or Gormott, essentially the Gar Plains equivalent for Xenoblade 2, the towns of Torgoth, or more Ardain, where Garplain was more bountiful and natural and beautiful. More Ardain is nitty gritty, very rustic, very kind of steampunkish, which I think would be the perfect what's the word I'm looking for? Well, the perfect opposite to Garplain. And in any case, sure. I think that is my piece on Rex, Pyra, and Mithra. I'm going to take a break before I talk about my next fighter. So if either one of you want to take it from there.
Yeah, Steven, you want to go ahead and jump in with one of your characters?
All right. I'll go ahead and talk about the one I'm most excited for. And that would be Sora from Kingdom Hearts. I know a lot of people are probably against this idea. I mean, one, there's the whole, we don't need any more swordsmen thing. And of course, Sora uses his Keyblade like a sword. But I think there's a lot of potential here, barring any copyright issues, maybe with Disney or Square. But like I said, he's got his Keyblade. You can use it kind of as a sword for your standard attack. But one of the key aspects of Kingdom Hearts combat is sleights, and it's where you chain attacks together in a certain way, and they have different effects. So, for instance, there's one called the Strike Raid, where he kind of throws his Keyblade like a boomerang, and you can kind of keep throwing it, numerous times, and kind of do a multi-hit thing that way. Maybe for a down B, there's a sleight called the Sliding Dash, which basically he just kind of slides along the ground and kind of does a swiping thing. So there's a lot of area there that they could draw the physical standard attacks from. And then for the special attacks, you have, of course, the magic system in Kingdom Hearts, which I imagine would probably work similarly to Robin, and how her spells have durability to them. You can use them so many times before they have to recharge. So I imagine Sora would have an MP meter, and could use different attacks would use maybe different amounts of MP, that sort of thing. But I'm picturing maybe a base special, a fire attack, Yeah, maybe down B could be like Cure, because there are some characters that can already who can sort of heal themselves a little bit. So I think that would be a pretty help Sora stand out a bit from most of the cast. For maybe like the side B, either Thunder or Blizzard, both pretty common spells in Kingdom Hearts. And then for your up B, it would be Arrow, which would make Sora lighter, almost not so much like floaty like Kirby, but it would be used, I think, primarily as like a recovery ability than anything else. And then for a final Smash, and of course this is dependent on getting the rights to these characters, but I picture in my head Donald, Goofy, and Sora coming together to do a Trinity attack.
Right.
And if they couldn't get Donald and Goofy, then I would settle for Riku and Kairi. But I think Donald and Goofy would really cement that Disney aspect of Kingdom Hearts. And so I think, I feel like a lot of people are maybe groaning at Sora as a possibility, just because he's one of the commonly requested characters, and but I think it would work really well. I'm not a diehard Kingdom Hearts fan. I like the games well enough, but they're not like my favorites or anything. But it just works so well that ever since I've planned this out, I've not been able to get that thought out of my mind.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me. Sora's got just a huge amount of popularity, and the Kingdom Hearts franchise definitely has a special place in a lot of gamers' hearts. Like you said, though, getting Disney rights, that's going to be dang near impossible. So they'd have to find ways to work around that. Like you said, you could just include, more of their original characters and things like that. But I think you might get away with Sora and not have people angry about look, it's another anime swordsman, just because of the far-reaching popularity of the character. And Smash is a great crossover series, and Kingdom Hearts is a great crossover game. So I think it's a perfect fit as well.
Right, and lest we forget too, not that it particularly matters all that much anymore, but Sora has been on a couple of Nintendo systems. There were 3 or 4 Kingdom Hearts games released on the handheld side of things. So it's not like Joker was, where pretty much he was only ever on PlayStation aside from Q2. But I think there's at least a little bit of tie-in with Nintendo as well, which I think might help a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say I'm not wholly familiar with Kingdom Hearts. I'm looking forward to giving them a go once they come to Xbox. But besides that, I can see Sora as a solid pick.
Yeah. I think it would be a decent move. It's just a matter of getting the rights, pretty much.
Very true.
But they got Cloud, and that was a big deal that people didn't think would happen. So.
Well, yeah, and that's why I said I feel like a lot of the hang-up would be on the Disney side of things, because I feel like Square and Nintendo have become really close over the years. With Cloud coming to Smash, and we're getting a lot of Square RPGs over. So I think at least on that side of things, it would probably be a bit easier. But again, it would be the Disney side of things that would really throw a wrench into the works.
Sure. All right, well, that brings it to me, and I'll go first with a Nintendo character, and that is Paper Mario. I'm kind of surprised that we don't have Paper Mario already in Smash, like at this point. It was an N64 game to begin with, and then, the most popular one was on GameCube around the same time as Melee, and the series has kind of disappointed ever since then for the most part. But there's been, all these rumors swirling about a new Paper Mario, return to form, etc. And I think that would be a really cool treat to include Paper Mario in Smash as a sort of tie-in. Now, if that happens, I'm sure they would make its moveset based on the new game. But I'm going with a moveset based on the first game because, it's got a special place in my heart. I've played it many, many times, and so I'm going to be more familiar with what Paper Mario has available to him in that game. So that's what I'm going with. And I really like the idea of kind of basing the special moves around a lot of your partners that you can have in the game. You recruit partners as you travel throughout the lands in Paper Mario, and they all have their own unique move sets. So, for example, for your neutral special, you could call out Bombette, and she, her like weak attack is that she just kind of charges into someone and body slams them, and her strong attack is that she explodes. So that could be just tapping B versus holding down B to charge, for example. And then, like, for a side special, you have Cooper, the Koopa, with his clever name. And you can, in the game, you can kick him, like, across, like, ditches and stuff like that to hit switches that you can't get to normally. So that would be perfect for that, really, just, like, as a side B move, just, like, kick the Koopa shell at them. And then for the up B, that one's pretty simple to me. Parry Carry, the flying Koopa, the Para-Koopa. So he would just like come in and grab you and like take you a little bit higher than you could get with your normal jumps. And I don't know if this would all be a little too OP. If so, you could add in a flower power meter, because that's a thing in Paper Mario where you can only use your special moves so many times before you run out of flower points. So they could kind of keep that in to keep the character balanced if it's too much. But if not, then hey, just, go to town. And another big part of the Paper Mario experience in the early games was badges. You could collect them and equip them, and then they would give you various special powers. So I thought that would make a good down special, where you can kind of cycle through different badges that maybe give you a defense boost or an attack boost. Again, kind of similar to what Shulk has, but I still think it would be nice, even if it's not fully original, just because you could incorporate as many elements as possible from the game. And the badge system was very popular. I know I always loved the badges. I thought it was really cool collecting and equipping them. For the dodge attack, I like the idea of Lady Bow showing up, because she is a ghost, and one of her special abilities is she can just like take you out of existence for a second, basically, to make your opponent miss you. So that's just perfect for Paper Mario's dodge. And then for, let's see, what else we got? Just like the neutral A attack, it would make sense to pull out your hammer. Jump attacks and hammer attacks are basically all you have at the start of the game normally, and then you kind of collect more stuff as you go. So for a smash attack, they could do the charged up version, where Paper Mario has these action commands. You gotta hit the button at the exact right time, and if you do it, it does more damage. So for the hammer, normally you like pull the stick back and hold it, and then like flick it forward at the right time, which is pretty much exactly how you do a smash attack. So that just seems like a perfect fit to me. And then, like I said, jumping on opponents' heads is a huge part of Paper Mario, and Mario in general, I guess. And in Smash, normally when you jump on someone's head, you just kind of like get a little momentum, you bounce a little higher, and they fall down, but it doesn't actually do any damage. But for Paper Mario, I think it would make sense for it to actually do damage, and for you to have the ability to then quickly hit an action command to like do a ground pound as a follow-up and do extra damage. Once again, just really keeping in spirit with like all of the mechanics of the game and bringing them together. Oh, and Final Smash, this one's pretty simple, the Star Beam. So in Paper Mario, you got to collect all these stars, and then you get them together, and you can use them to come up with this awesome like rainbow beam that makes Bowser not invincible anymore. So you can just blast him to oblivion with the Star Beam, pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun there. I was actually thinking, depending on the palette that you have out for Paper Mario, I was thinking, what if some of the partners were switched out with like their equivalents from Thousand Year Door? Like you said, like for dodging, Lady Bow would just turn him invisible. What if under a different color palette it were Vivian instead?
Mm-hmm.
Or like instead of the Bob-omb from the first game, you could just have Admiral Bobbery for another palette.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Lots of different
just
costume options.
Yeah, just pay more homage to like the history of Paper Mario, and I can even see like for one of his taunts, maybe like he could just cycle through like random pixels from Super Paper Mario for the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then I think that was it. I don't think there were any games after Super Paper Mario. I forget. My memory's a little hazy.
Yeah, none that we talk about anyway. Yeah, it was kind of hard to slim it down to just like whatever it was, like 4 partners that I picked, because there are a lot of good partners in the Paper Mario series, but those are ones that I felt like their abilities could sort of work together to make him kind of a projectile machine that can then also thwack you with the hammer if you get close enough.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, did you want to go ahead with your second character then, Jeff?
Yeah, might as well. So, for my second pick, this one thankfully won't be as extensive as I've gone with my first. So,
you won't be giving us the complete history of a franchise.
No, I don't think I will. But this one, at least kind of like Rex, has already been shown off in Smash in some way. We have Shantae and Risky Boots as spirits from, of course, WayForward's mascot series. Or at least I think it is their mascot. I'm not too sure. But,
by the way, WayForward, underrated studio. Very good studio.
For sure. And I'm I'm gonna try to think of a few other ideas for other WayForward reps. But in any case, for Shantae, I can easily see her come in as an indie rep. If not her, then maybe Reimu from Toho. But as much as I do see Reimu having a strong likelihood of also making it in, I know very little about the Toho series. I'm just gonna stick with what I know. All right, so for Shantae, in her case, well, she has been with Nintendo since the Game Boy Color as a late cult classic when the Game Boy Advance was well in its prime. So I think, like, at least for longevity's sake or seniority, I know that's not really what Sakurai is looking for in a character, but I can see, at least on that merit alone, that she can get a spot on the roster. Besides that, for her fun gimmick, I can easily see, like, well, her moveset just being based entirely on her dances, at least for her specials. Like, I can easily see her monkey bullet for her side, where she just, like, transforms into a monkey and then just, like, flies off like a bullet, kind of like Ike's side B, where, okay, like, you just fly a set distance, depending on how well you charge it, and if you miss, well, down you go.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, then her basic her special, I was kind of thinking just a very powerful ponytail whip kind of strike, because I believe if Kirby's going to take on, well, Shantae's copy ability, I think it would be best for him to, like, show off, like, what she's most renowned for. Like, if not her dance, then of course her hair. Up special, definitely her harpy transformation, which works as recovery. Might be a little broken, seeing as it's just, like, straight up flight, kind of like Pit's old up B from way back in Brawl. But seeing as it's not at all offensively oriented, I can easily see someone just shooting her right out of the sky. Down B, easily her elephant smash, where it kind of operates like a really heavy ground pound, where, the cute, demure, petite little half genie suddenly just jumps up into the air, becomes a ridiculously large elephant, comes crashing down, and then buries the poor sod who happens to be right underneath her. And then, of course, for her final smash, I was thinking among some of the other options, like, do I want to pull something from her later games, from Risky's Revenge, Pirate's Curse, Half Genie Hero? I was thinking, no, for this one, let's kind of go back, like lean heavily into the dance, into the dance aspect of her character, where kind of like Duck Hunt's or Captain Falcon's final smashes, where, like, you get hit if you're in range, you're suddenly transported somewhere new. I can easily see, like, the dance hall from, like, the first Game Boy game, and then suddenly they get pelted by, like, a ton of gems and rubies and other coins, as Shantae, like, maybe in her 8-bit form, like, just, like, dances like right on the stage there, and then of course just gets sent flying
right on their grave,
pretty much. Dance on their grave. Yeah, then for her stage, I gotta say, like, Risky has to play a huge role in this. And seeing as other Smash DLC stages had, like, characters from that particular series just, like, show up, an easy pick has got to be Scuttletown. The main hub of the Shantae series has been, like, a mainstay since the very beginning. So, I could easily see, like, Uncle Mimic, Bolo, Sky, Roddy Tops, and of course, just as the main gimmick for the stage, Risky Boots just comes in on the Tinker Tub and just, like, lays waste to the map, or just, like, drastically alters how it looks. Now, for the music, I kind of want to see if Shantae does get in, not just music from the Shantae series, but that they kind of go the same way that they did with SNK, with Terry, where they include, like, a ton of other songs from, like, other franchises. So, like, I can easily see, like, music from maybe, like, the Mighty Switch Force, for example.
Yes, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Patty Wagon would be an interesting character choice, too. I just don't know what all abilities you would give her, since most of her powers are based around manipulating the stage. But yeah, that's Mighty Switch Force is a great series, so I'd love to see some representation there.
Or what if that actually plays part into the stage? Like, on one moment it's more Shantae based, but the next thing you know, you see, like, other WayForward franchises just crashing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Paddy Wagon, she was an alternate costume for Shantae in one of the extra campaigns for Half Genie Hero, so I can easily see that as an alt.
Man, now I want to go play Mighty Switch Force again.
And I want to play the new Seven Sirens games. Seven Sirens game once it comes out on other platforms, namely the Switch. Please way forward. I know you're hard at work on the game, but please, I really want to give it a roll, and I don't have an Apple Arcade subscription.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, and that's pretty much my piece on the Shantae series right there.
Yeah, that's another good pick. I mean, there's not many indie characters that have as much association with Nintendo as Shantae.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
All right, Steven, take us away with your number 2.
All right, so I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this one. He's big, he's bad, Big the Cat. Actually, but from Sonic, though, I'm singing maybe Dr. Eggman.
Ooh.
Okay.
So I'll go on record as saying I thought of this maybe like an hour prior to recording, so I haven't really fleshed this one out as much as maybe Sora. But it was too good to pass up. So, of course, he would be a heavy character. I'm thinking he would likely be in a robot, like maybe in like the one from Sonic Adventure 2, something like that. I mean, he is, a robotics genius, so it just makes sense. I think one of his more unique characteristics would be that maybe the robot could take damage over time and eventually break into pieces that you can use as items, sort of like Wario's motorcycle.
Okay.
And then after death or after a set amount of time, then you could call the robot in, kind of similar to Diva's ultimate in Overwatch. So you wouldn't necessarily be locked out of the robot entirely once it gets destroyed, but maybe a penalty of sorts for losing it, or and not that it's necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, you would have to design him in such a way that he could hold his own even without the machinery, but
sure,
maybe not as powerful.
He could be a little more snake-like, with like gadgets and stuff like that he throws around.
Yeah, and so for the special attacks, I think a lot of it would revolve around different gadgets and sonic traps. Maybe he could throw out some spikes or fake item boxes or fake items or something like that. I imagine him running around the stage like he does in the Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure 2, which just makes me laugh so much.
I was just thinking of the ending of Sonic 3 and Knuckles when you destroy the giant robot and then he starts running away from you.
Yeah, just
I always wondered
why
is Sonic not able to catch him?
So another interesting aspect of the robot is that maybe it could transform into a different form. So maybe going from like a walking robot to one of his floating capsules. Maybe to do something just to give, kind of like how Zelda and Sheik used to be the same character. That
sure.
Maybe you could switch which form of the robot you're in. It would maybe not so much give you different moves, but would just play a bit differently to give you some variety.
Yeah, full disclosure, I am thinking of a full moveset for him. Like, as you're talking, please keep going. I want to hear more.
And so then for the final smash, and I could have gone a lot of ways with this, but I'm throwing you a bone here, Ben.
Okay.
Picture this.
I think I know what's coming. Bring it.
Mean Bean Machine.
Yes!
Ooh. So, maybe he designed a teleportation beam that would trap anyone caught in it within a Mean Machine board, and you're just kind of trapped there as Eggman plays the game and makes this giant chain of blocks and sends a bunch of garbage onto screen, and then you get crushed by it.
See, if you did that, I would have to main Eggman going forward. Don't do this to me, Steven.
Yeah, so you could take some liberties. I don't know how well it would work. I think the amount of time a Final Smash lasts probably wouldn't really be conducive to this, but maybe you could find a way to make that section playable. If there were the puzzle mode where you drop one piece and it just sets off this whole chain reaction.
Yeah.
And depending on how well you do, sends so much garbage over. And then I imagine it maybe not so much from a knockback perspective, but more of a if you're above a certain damage threshold at the end of this, then it just instant kills you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing in Mean Bean Machine too. It's possible to make a match so big that the game just can't even display how many beans you're supposed to be dropping on them. So and then it's just over. Their whole screen fills up and it's done.
But yeah, so I think that's I'm really happy. I'm really excited about that Mean Bean Machine idea, but just because I think it'd be a bit more unique compared to a lot of the others. But anyway, so like I said, I didn't have that one as fleshed out, but I think it could potentially work.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. A lot of fun, and like you said, it's unique. And Smash Bros is definitely that. It's part of the magic is having so many just weird characters that somehow all work together.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And for Eggman, I can easily see alts kind of like certain other characters like Robin and Byleth, where one was male, the other was female. I can easily see one based on modern and the other based on classic Eggman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe one particular color scheme being straight up Eggman Nega from the Sonic Rush games.
And one being Jim Carrey.
Of course.
Or you could do instead of alternate color schemes, do Bowser Jr. and have the Koopa kids, and so maybe you can bring in the hard-boiled heavies from Sonic Mania or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I can see some of that.
I've been having a hankering to replay Sonic Mania too, so you guys are giving me all kinds of ideas.
Oh, you should, because it is an excellent game, and if you're listening right now, you can buy Sonic Mania with money.
That is true. Yes. All right, so my last character, also not quite as thought out as the first one, but I've still got a decent amount of notes here. I think it should be the Knight from Hollow Knight, the nameless protagonist that ventures into the Hollow Nest. So this is one of the more popular indie games recently, and it's very much in the Metroidvania genre, which, gives it really good ties to Nintendo, and I believe the Switch version sold extremely well, and it's getting a sequel on Switch as well, so it's definitely got that Nintendo goodwill and fits with Nintendo's IP in general. And then I just think it would be a decent character too. You have quite a few options for attacks and spells and stuff in Hollow Knight, so there's a lot to work with. I would think of this character as being, for the most part, very movement based, kind of fast, maybe sort of similar speed and jumping ability to a Toon Link or a Young Link, where you can kind of get around the stage really quick while throwing projectiles and also swinging with your sword, or in this case, technically a nail. And one of the cool things about Hollow Knight is that if you're jumping around with your nail, you can swing it at things and kind of use it like a pogo stick to bounce off the ground or bounce off things in the background to go higher. And so that would make sense here too, which again is kind of similar to Toon Link, but it's a little quicker and smoother of a process, whereas all of the Link's downward thrusts are I'm about to stab this person into the ground. This would be more doing a little bit of damage and propelling yourself, so you could kind of use that to your advantage, especially off screen, or off stage, I mean. And going along with that same idea of making them very movement based, for the up special, there's the Monarch Wings, which is a late item in the game that you can just kind of do a double jump, and then you just sprout these little angel wings that do a flap and let you go a little bit higher. So you could give him a very good recovery. I shouldn't say him, I guess actually technically the knight is canon non-gendered, but I don't know how much we want to get into the plot of Hollow Knight here, because it is confusing and convoluting, and I may have spent an hour before this getting sucked into lore videos. Another movement-based thing could be the Crystal Heart, which is just an item that works kind of like it's kind of like in Metroid, where you can speedrun and then you can Shine Spark, which just sends you flying full speed across the map, basically. So you can do a very similar thing in Hollow Knight. But it's also possible to pull yourself out of it if you realize, oh, I'm flying headfirst into spikes or a cliff or something like that. So it wouldn't have to be one of these moves where if you miss with it, you're just suiciding right off the edge of the map. You would have the ability to pull out of it and recover if you mess up. But if you actually successfully hit someone with it, you would launch them. So I think that would give it an advantage over some of the other side B dashers. For neutral B, One of the core mechanics of Hollow Knight is that you have this little soul meter, and you can use it both for offense and for defense. You can shoot out a projectile with it that's called the Vengeful Spirit, or you can hold a button down and it'll like consume some of your soul and in return heal some of your health. So most of the Knight's gameplay in Smash would be based around moving around the stage really fast, making it so you're hard to hit. You're just dealing bits of damage and they can't get to you. But if you want to heal yourself, you would have to sacrifice that mobility, stand still, and charge for a couple of seconds, like, say, Cloud would do when, charging up his down B. So it's kind of like a risk reward. And then also the meter, it drains as you either shoot the Vengeful Spirit off or heal yourself. So the way to refill your meter in Hollow Knight is by killing enemies. And so similarly in Smash, if you want to refill your spirit gauge, you have to do damage. And then once you've done that, you get your projectiles back, you get your healing back. So it kind of forces you to kind of balance between offense and defense. You got to be aggressive enough to keep your spirit meter filled. But I'm picturing the Knight as being not a very heavy character, not a very defensive character overall. So if you want to take those risks, you could also very easily get killed from, getting in close to try to refill your spirit meter and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's just sort of how I picture the Knight. Very movement-based character and just kind of picking your battles. When do I want to be aggressive? When do I want to hang back and heal? And for Final Smash, you get an item called the Dream Nail that lets you actually go inside of dreams in some situations, or just to sort of like read the thoughts of people. So my thought would be, if you manage to successfully hit someone with your final slash or with your final smash, you would hit them with the Dream Nail and like send them into the dream realm where I won't give spoilers, but let's just say a very powerful character resides in the dream world. So they could meet their untimely doom in the dream world once you hit them. And that's pretty much it for Hollow Knight. Or I should just say The Knight. The game is Hollow Knight. The character is nameless and is usually referred to as The Knight. All right. Did any of you guys have some runner-ups you wanted to just briefly touch on? We're getting pretty late here, but we can just go through some really quick if you have some.
Honorable mentions, I would say, for sure. Well, I think I already mentioned Reimu from Toho before. Not for lack of faith in the character, just lack of knowledge, hence why I didn't really go into detail. Sure. Besides that, if Hollow Knight doesn't make it in as a fighter, I can definitely see them coming in as a Mii sword fighter. Indie fighters have gotten like a lot of notoriety with Sans and Cuphead, so
yeah. And given the indie status, I think that's probably more likely.
Mm-hmm. And same for Shantae while I'm at it. But anyway, I've already made my points. Besides that, Gino, I don't know if it'll be a fighter or a Mii fighter like last time, maybe with like a dedicated.
It was also
like,
on my honorable mentions list.
Oh shoot! Gino. Right, sorry.
No, that's fine. Good. But as long as they get out there,
I'll let you go into detail about Gino. But besides that, I already said before that I was pretty satisfied with the roster to begin with, save for like Rex not being on there, so I don't really have much else to add.
All right, we got a satisfied Jeff. Steven, any alternates for you?
Yeah, I got two quick ones. One was my initial pick aside from Eggman, but I was thinking maybe Bass from the Mega Man series.
Sure.
I think there's enough weapons in the series that he wouldn't necessarily be a copy of Mega Man. I know, in universe there are some significant differences in their abilities to begin with. Also, Bass has treble, which could come into play pretty nicely, I think. Whether it's
treble's a dog, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just clarify.
Yeah. So it could come in either as like a final smash thing, or maybe do like a tag team thing with like Rosalina and Luma. So I think that there's enough variety there from Mega Man that it could potentially work out. And so for my second one, I literally just thought of this as well when you mentioned mine not having a first party thing. I guess it's not really so much first party, but I think a lot could be done maybe with like the protagonist from Astral Chain.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
I've not played the game yet, so I can't really speak too much about it, but I think the core mechanic of Astral Chain, where you're controlling the legions and even at the same time as your character, I think would make an interesting mechanic for Smash if they could somehow work that in. And there's enough variety in the legions, which would make for different styles of attack and stuff too.
All right, I've just got 2 more myself. I'll keep them both pretty brief. One is Skull Kid. Don't really got a moveset in mind. I just think Skull Kid's cool. But Final Smash is obviously summoning the moon to just crush everything.
Thank you, Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, yeah. The only other one I had on my list was the protagonist from Golf Story. I think between golf clubs and frisbee golf and the other various sports they play, and there'll be even more sports in the sequel. I think you can make a really good annoyer character, kind of like the villager or like Duck Hunt, someone who just throws out all manner of ridiculous projectiles against you and makes it impossible to get into any kind of rhythm. I think that could be a fun character. But yeah, that's all I had then.
If I can interject one last time, I just had this
Sure.
silliest, it's really just silly and stupid, but the fact that if, what I mentioned with Hollow Knight, if this character just becomes like a Mii sword fighter, just imagine that, Mii just like running at you with a golf club as a fighter.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great.
Okay. All
right, well, I think that about does it. Thank you guys for joining me.
Oh, I wish I could stay.
I'm not going to sing this time, I swear.
Until next time, I don't know what we're going to do for our next episode yet. We've been talking for a while about maybe a 2020 Hopes and Dreams episode, but then Nintendo keeps announcing things. So maybe if we plug that again, we'll get a Nintendo Direct next week.
Yeah, maybe.
Fingers crossed.
But until then, if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Arimgard, ERIMGARD. Steven?
Like the last couple episodes I was on, you can find me on Twitter at RedRollinsYum, RedRollinsYum.
And Jeffrey?
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter as at VizardJeffhog, VizardJeffhog.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.